Let me go back to my colleague, Winston Taki. He was actually on the floor, not of Parliament, but here in the studio, where he was walking us through some numbers. So, Winston, because of time constraints, if you can just summarize what you intend to tell us so I can get my concluding remarks from my resource person so we can wrap it all up.
Amoro, interestingly, I cited an article, that is the IMF consultative meeting released last year, that is June 2021. Right. And in that document, IMF projected that certainly if care is not taken with regards to our level of debt deficit, we'll go back to the IMF. And here lies the case where the prophecy has been manifested. Let's go back to the figure. Consistently, you go to the market, people complain that the food prices are going up. Ghana Statistical Service released the data. 29.8% is what they feel in the market. No matter how they tend to politicize it, it is still being felt in the market. Price of foodstuff are going up, fuel prices are going up. How are we reviewing the prices to reflect the better condition for individuals across the country? According to the finance minister, the gross international reserves stands at $7.7 billion US. The discussion was done in the House of Parliament with regards to how much do we have before we can move on, or let's say engage in international trade. And the threat now is how will we be able to sustain the reserves in terms of the crude oil we have as a country? How much do we have at our reserves is the issue that we're hoping to get to conclusive on. But let's go to the key indicators that the finance minister made mention of. Initially, in the 2022 budget, the government projected a 5.8% GDP growth. As of now, it has been revised to 7.3% GDP growth. Oh. But in the first quarter...
3.7?
Yeah, 3.7, yes. That's what has been revised recently. And in the first quarter, the Ghana Statistical Service released the growth rate of 3.3%. But we're hoping that going into the latter part of the year, will it still be revised downwards, or are there going to be a new dynamics with the IMF coming into the picture? The non-oil GDP growth was then projected at 5.9%, and it is revised again to 4.3%. Inflation, which was 8% targeted, that was targeted in the 2022 budget, the government intends to get a single-digit inflation. But you and I know from the past 16 months now, inflation has been in the upward trend to hit 28.9%. But according to the budget that was presented today, the figure that was released there is 28.5%. But you and I know it is 28.9% from the Ghana Statistical Service. Fiscal deficit was 7.4% target in the 2022 budget, but now it's been revised downwards to 6.6% of GDP. Primary surplus, 0.1%, but now it is 0.4%. So these are some of the things that the finance minister made mention of during his presentation today. Key amongst them has to do with security issues. He said the Ghana Armed Forces is pursuing enhanced surveillance program for the country's space and international borders. He made mention of the programs that has to do with the See Something, Say Something project that they are currently implementing. And also, we would like to look at the power sector. Consistently, we've all been complaining, or let's say advocating for prudent management of our resources. We've been in an era where we experienced doom so. Now it has to do with the debt that is being accrued in our energy sector. Still, you and I are still paying the energy sector levy, but according to the finance minister, renegotiations of power purchase agreement completed with 6 independent power producers, namely the Car Power, STEM Power, LE Power, and some power producing companies. According to them, when they renegotiated those agreements, the country was able to save $13.2 billion US. That was according to the finance minister. But if you go deep down, we want to understand how much more has been lost with regards to the investment that these independent power producers will have to be paid. What is the negotiation? The details is what we'll be delving in later on in our subsequent bulletin. Let me just touch on some few things that has to do with the road projects that are currently ongoing in most parts of the country. The issue about roads is that when we have good roads, it has a tendency to boost economic growth. Businesses' activities commence smoothly. When you talk about road speed of transport of food crops from the farmlands into the hinterlands, all of them get to be improved because of good roads. When we have good roads, trust me, the economy will grow. But let's look at some interchanges that are currently going on. The Tamale Interchange project, according to the government, has been completed and commissioned. The PTC roundabout interchange, according to the government, is 35% completed. And upgrading of selected feeder roads in Ashanti and Western region are currently being completed. Last of them is the Sunyani Inner City Roads, which is currently at 63% completion rate. So these are some projects that are currently ongoing, but we'll follow up to see the progress on those stations as well. And let me not leave the issue of fuel prices. You and I have experienced that consistently the GPRTU come up with 50% increment, percentages of increment. You also hear what the National Petroleum Authority consistently release the figures that has to do with the price of fuel at the pumps. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers come out projections as to how much we paid weekly, bi-weekly in terms of the windows. But now we want to know what has been done to review fuel prices. But there has been debates. What policy strategy? Do we have to take away the deregulation policy, or will there have to be a review in terms of taking feedback in terms of implementing that particular policy? But according to the finance minister, the GridCo, the bulk oil distribution companies, are in a better position to continuously supply our energy or fuel product in the country. According to him also, there's been a commission of a solar irrigation project at the Whole Technical University to promote renewable energy. These are more issues. And now let's move to the agri sector briefly. The agri sector, according to the finance minister, there has been a temporary ban on the importation of grain. We make mention of maize, rice, and soya exports. So now all these products cannot be exported at the moment. Establish Grain Development Authority to regulate grain production and marketing, including export. He made mention of the fact that there's been a fertilizer promotion agenda where at the moment some farmers have access to free fertilizer. And closely, he made mention of the fact that there are certain growing market centers in the country that are experiencing restructuring possibly. Okay, let me touch on the health sector. There are 5 polytechnics, according to him, that are currently being renegotiated and being built as well. So these and more that the government and its projects are being implemented going forward.
Right, Winston, I think that the beauty of what you've done so far is that you've given us a summary of what. So, for instance, if somebody missed the finance minister's presentation, you have sort of given the person a sense of what the finance minister has said. The other good news